Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to week 2. I hope that everyone had a good first week. I know it's kind of hard to get into the groove of school again, but hopefully it went well for you and you're back at it this week. Before I jump into the module, I want to just show you a couple of things here on Canvas. You might already know about that, but in case you don't, the to-do list that's here on the very right side when you log into our class, you can click the X's for items that you've done and you've completed. Sometimes that might be kind of an easier way to manage what you have going on in the class. The other thing I wanted to show you is in grades. So I'm working through kind of finishing up the grading from last week. So you should have at least one, if not more, little blue circles with numbers here. That's an indication that you have a new grade in the gradebook. So I'm in my test student view here. If I click on grades, my test student's not doing well. When I click on grades, see this little comment box right here? When you see this in the gradebook, that means that I've left you a comment. I've left you a note, and you can either click on it to see what I've written, or you can click on the assignment and you can see my comment in the comment box. If you click on the assignment, then you have an opportunity to respond if you want to. It's not required. But I do want you to make sure that you're kind of reading my comments there, especially if you have a 0 or if you're not getting full credit. I usually will be explaining in the comment box why that is the case. So do make sure that you're staying on top of the comments there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my home. You'll notice, of course, that we have this week's module. This link will take you directly to our module for this week, but I added last week's module. So you will now have those 2 links in the sidebar every week. This week's takes you directly to the week that we're in right now. Last week's takes you directly to last week's module. Again, you can access all that by clicking modules, but sometimes it's easy just to be taken there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this week's module. We're starting Essay 1 this week. So all of our objectives this week are really diving into our first essay topic of the semester. As I mentioned last week, on that overview page, it kind of explains what assignments you have this week, what the point value is, the due dates, and then remember that EC, these are all your extra credit opportunities. They're totally optional, they're not required. Again, up to you. All right, so clicking through the module, the essay overview. So what I wanted to do was let you know kind of what the topics were going to be for the semester, because again, you have this word count bank that you get to play with and decide which essays you want to be shorter or longer, or if you just want to write them all out of the same length, you can do that. But in order to kind of help you make a more informed decision, you need to know what the topics are. So this gives you an overview of what to expect this semester in terms of the ideas that we're studying, as well as a deeper explanation of the word count. I don't really go into this in that first week just because there's so many details and it's all so overwhelming. Anyway, but this will give you a good idea of what to expect for the topics and how you might tackle the word count. The next page kind of just explains the course, right? And what to expect week to week. I try to make it super consistent because I think that just makes it easier for you in terms of what's due when and all of that. So make sure that you're looking at the this course layout page. And I just want to reemphasize again, I cannot stress the importance of you to use the modules in this class. I know it's tempting to just work off of the dashboard and the to-do list or work off of the calendar, but I promise you, you're going to be missing about 3/4 of the material in this class because the readings, the essays, none of those are going to appear on the to-do list. They're in the module. So again, I can't stress to you how important it is for you to be using the modules. Okay, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. But this page is just basically explaining kind of what you can expect week to week and the timing. And I wanted to just kind of do this for you, especially for those of you who work and have other responsibilities. just so you can kind of begin planning your time during the week around what's due, at least in this class. Okay. This next page here just kind of explains levels of questions, and this is not new. This is nothing that you probably haven't already heard. But if hearing level 1, level 2, level 3 questions, if that's new to you, then please make sure you read this page. Because one of the things that I'm going to be asking you to do in your discussion board posts is to ask a question coming out of the reading. And that question will be answered by one of your classmates. And so you need to have a sense of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about questions. So that's kind of what I'm doing here in this page. And then, drum roll please, your essay number 1 assignment. Essay number 1 topic is about language. And you're essentially going to be kind of asking the bigger question of how language shapes our worldview. How does it shape our thinking and what we're able to think and what we're able to say and what we're able to communicate? It's really kind of this big, heady, abstract idea. And it's based around the first reading that you're going to read this week by David Ludden, called How Language Shapes Our World. So what I would encourage you to do is to either save this as a Google Doc. You'll be able to do that here in this link, or print it or download it, save it. So that way you kind of are, as you're reading the articles this week and next week, you're also able to kind of keep in the back of your mind what this essay is about, right? You'll notice that in the essay assignment, I am pretty explicit with the requirements, who you're going to be writing to, what the structure is, and we'll talk more about that, kind of what it means to write an academic argument, what it means to write a thesis that is not a 3-point thesis. We'll talk what that even means. In the assignment, I always provide what I call an assignment snapshot, which kind of takes all of my jibber jabber and just like boils it down to here's what's required, right? And so if reading through all of my questions and my things to get you thinking is confusing to you, then look for the assignment snapshot, and it just kind of breaks it all down. How many sources are required, what kind of length I would recommend. Again, there's that recommended word count, the due dates, when things are going to be due, all of that. I will say that, and I mentioned this last week, for each of the essays, you're going to be conferencing with me at least once about your essay, right? And so those conferences will begin next week before the rough draft is due, the week of the 12th, and then the week of that the essay is actually due. So you get to choose when you want to conference with me. It's totally up to you. Some students like to conference really early because they're stuck or they need to kind of talk through their ideas. Some students prefer to conference closer to the rough draft. Some students would rather conference after the rough draft. So it's up to you. Everyone's got a different process, and I'll have appointments and kind of opportunities for you to meet at a variety of different times. So look for that next week in terms of scheduling a conference with me. All right. So our first reading is the David Ludden reading. This is the basis of essay number 1. So it's really important that you dive into this. The essay is not necessarily difficult, but some of the things that he's talking about in here might make you pause. And if it does, that's good, because you know what? That's critical thinking. So you're going to be reading this. Again, you can download it as a doc, upload it as a Google Doc. You can annotate it by hand. It's entirely up to you, but you will probably most likely be citing this article in your essay. So however you choose to annotate, it's up to you. It's not something I'm going to check. But you will be using some of your thoughts about the article in the discussion board. So the discussion board is due on Tuesday with a grace period of Wednesday, and you do have at least one peer reply. So the discussion boards aren't always going to follow the exact same format, but for this one, I'm pretty explicit in the discussion boards, right? I kind of give you some background, and then I guide you with what I'm looking for in your response. My discussion boards will also all have a steps to take, right? And so I'm going to just break it down. Here's what you need to do to write your discussion board, right? Usually there's not usually, there's always a word count minimum. And then here's that levels of question. You need to ask a question, right? And then you post it by the due date. There's always not always, but for most of the discussion boards, there's a peer reply. And when you are being asked to write a question as part of your discussion board response, then when you go to reply, you're going to go find someone's question that you want to tackle, and that will be the basis of your reply. The discussion board posts are 4 points, and the reply is worth 1. So each discussion board unit, if you want to think of it in those terms, are 5 points. So if you post your response, but you don't get a reply, that's only 4 points, right? Okay. The next page looks a little bit funny, but that way it pops up on your to-do list. Not to forget to post the reply. I know that sometimes it's really easy to finish your response, but not do the reply. So your second reading is due Thursday. And this one is a reading, or it could also be her TED Talk. You can choose which one you want to engage with, and I kind of explain that here. It's by Lyra Baroditsky, and it's called How Does Language Shape the Way? I've given you the article here, but the assignment is actually a hypothesis. And this hypothesis is going to be different in that you are all going to be annotating the same document together. So last week's syllabus annotation was individual. You were all in individual groups. You were named individual 10 or individual 15 or whatever number you had. In this case, you're all going to be part of the same class. So you're going to see a lot of different annotations on the page that, again, you can kind of ignore if you want to, or you can respond to people. I kind of walk you through that here. I explain it. And that is due Thursday with a grace period of Friday, and then to respond to at least a question or a challenge by Friday or Saturday. All right, and again, there's the reminder page that will pop up on your to-do list. So this week begins our writing territory mentor texts, and all that means is that I want you to try new techniques in your writing territories. You can still write about whatever you want. You still have total freedom in that regard, but I want you to try certain things. This week is short sentences. So you're going to read this story from Jimmy Santiago Baca. You don't have to annotate it or anything, but you can see that I have annotated it for you with this style, right? These short sentences. So what I want you to do in this week's case is to try them, right? And so read through this, see how Baca has done it, and then that's the skill that you're going to try in this week's writing territory. Again, with the writing territories, please make sure you're following those requirements. Some folks ended up getting zeros just because you didn't meet the basic guidelines, so make sure that you have done that. You can turn it in anytime. It's due by Friday night or Saturday by noon. And then you have a series of extra credit assignments. A student support hub, which is new here at LMC. And then there's a little 1-question quiz, which is just basically what did you learn about the hub. The extra credit pages look a little funky. Don't be alarmed. Again, I have to trick Canvas into getting extra credit to happen. So just ignore the fact that you have to jump through an extra hoop here. It's going to tell you that the point value is 0. It's not. You have, right? I'm really clear on what your point value is. So just follow these instructions for each extra credit opportunity. You have 3 extra credit opportunities this week, and they all kind of feed into language, except for the support services one. And that's basically it. We're coming to the end of our week. And that's it. So don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions, and have a great week.